Thank you very much. And we will now proceed to our questions and dialogue. Let me begin by saying that years ago, and just a related story, years ago there was, and I think it was in 2004, the Chechen terrorists took over a school in, is it Barcelona? Is that the how you pronounce it? In Russia, Chechnya. Is that city part of Chechnya, or is it just part of Russia? It's not. It's a Russian city, Russian school. And the terrorists there murdered, in the end, 180 children lost their lives. Children. And I remember calling the White House personally, and I talked directly to Condoleezza Rice and told her, now is the time that we can establish a close and new and positive relationship with Russia and recruit them to work with us in areas of mutual interest that we couldn't do before. Now is the time for us to stand with these folks. And I said, send President Bush over there to stand next to Putin and say that Americans stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Russia, and yes, the government of Russia, in opposing and defeating those who would murder children in order to obtain their political ends. As we've seen in Boston, the young man who put the bomb down did so right behind an 8-year-old boy. Now, the answer was evident that no, the President didn't go there. Let us also note that how many people here know that the Russians have built a monument in memory of the people of who were killed, the Americans killed in 9/11. How many know that right across from where the World Trade Center was, looking across the bay, there's a beautiful monument that was built by the Russian people and the Russian government, expressing solidarity in the sorrow and heartache of seeing their people, ordinary people, Americans and citizens, young people, old people, losing their lives like this to a terrorist attack. Well, today I would hope that what happened in Boston and the fact that it related directly back to Russia and Chechnya in terms of there's a line we can draw, that I hope that will motivate us to work with Russia in order to defeat those who would murder children in order to obtain their goals. Now, the Chechen independence movement was originally secular and nationalist. What I'm talking about is I do not understand how radical Islam, talking about God and Allah, as they say, that they seem to be the ones who justify acts and make legitimate acts of murdering innocent people who are non-combatants and targeting non-combatants, not targeting the army of someone, but targeting non-combatants. That is being done to terrorize us into submitting to some of their radical religious thought, I guess. But in the beginning, the Chechen independence movement was secular and nationalist. Now it appears that radical Islamist ideology is pretty much dominating that independence movement. And these are people who now, this radical Islamic ideology makes a common jihad against Christians, Jews, and Hindus throughout the world. Where'd that come from? How did that happen? I'm asking this of the panel. And was this the financing of Wahhabi extremism and financing of these mosques? Did that have something to do with this? And what kind of threat in the future? And also, let me note, they didn't permit in Uzbekistan the Saudis to come in and build their mosques. They were criticized here as that's a violation of their human rights. But we know that the Saudi purpose of doing this was to develop a brand of Islam that will target and kill children. So, number one, how did it become this radical ideology, and is there a way to counter that? And is Uzbekistan wrong, and are we right to condemn Uzbekistan for not allowing them to build their mosques? Gobel is really anxious here. Go right ahead.
Well, as someone who was quite involved with Joker Dudayev, who, after all, prevented the killing of Boris Yeltsin in January of '91, and also prevented the extension of killings from Vilnius and Riga to go to Tallinn at that time, I can testify that the Chechen national movement was completely secular. The process by which you saw a change is not that the entire movement changed, but the part that got attention changed. It was a product of, I believe, 3 different factors. The first was that the Chechen national movement, as articulated by Joker Dudayev, believed that Chechens as a nation had a right to independence the same way the Estonians or the Latvians or anyone else. That was his personal belief. When the Chechens did not get any support for their position in the West, they began looking for support elsewhere. Disappointed in our not having supported us, they turned to look at the only people who were prepared to say they were supporting them. Second, I mentioned some numbers about the number of people going on the Hajj. This is a good indication of how intense you have. Over the last 22 years, Chechens have formed roughly 40% of the Hajis coming from the Russian Federation, even though the Chechens form less than 1% of the population of the Russian Federation. So you have a lot of people being exposed. And the third thing is there's been money. I mean, real money coming in from the Saudis, and not just the Saudis, a number of other people too, to build various kinds of things. I would argue that there is still a Chechen national movement which is committed to a secular and free Chechnya. Unfortunately, it gets very little attention, and it gets very little attention in Chechnya because it's been so unsuccessful. When people are unsuccessful, when the people they hope will be their allies don't turn out to be, it's not surprising that they turn to other people who are willing to support them. And unfortunately, some of the people they turn to in this instance have, as you've quite properly pointed out, truly criminal and immoral agendas.
Okay. Let me just note, and then we'll go to your ranking member, just say, I can't imagine if a number of Western countries where people would be so committed to their national independence, and they were so frustrated that they weren't getting outside support, that they would go to ally themselves with those who want them and help them murder large numbers of children. This is not an excuse. Them not getting support in the United States or from people who believe in democracy is no excuse to help people who are willing to target children.
Mr. Chairman, I was not seeking to provide an excuse. I'm just trying to provide an explanation and answer, because it is absolutely true. What was tragic is that those people who recognized what was going on were almost entirely ignored, and that there was a lot that could have been done and should have been done and wasn't done. I certainly do not believe that we bear responsibility, either then or now, for what happened.
Okay, Mr. Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.